राम की है तू माला, गौतम वाला तुझ में उजाला। ओ राम नाम की है तो माला, गौतम वाला तुझ में उजाला। नेम करेगी मीठी छाया, बोले हर डोलेगी काया, बदले हर डोलेगी काया। साईनाथ साईनाथ ओ साईनाथ तेरे हजारों हाथ, साईनाथ तेरे हजारों हाथ। साई तत्त्वं वितुल्यं अन्तरगुणरचनाकरं, साईनास्तु कथानं साईनाथ नमोऽस्तु ते। साई तत्त्वं वितुल्यं अन्तरगुणरचनाकरं, साईनास्तु कथानं साईनाथ नमोऽस्तु ते। हम तो तुमसे जोड़ के बैठे नाते दुनिया वाले, हम तो तुमसे जोड़ के बैठे नाते दुनिया वाले। रूप विराट दिखा कर तुमने मन अधरन में डाले, रूप विराट दिखा कर तुमने मन अधरन में डाले। साईनाथ हमें फिर लौटा दो, साईनाथ हमें फिर लौटा दो, ये मुझक रूप तुम्हारा। जय साई राम जय साई राम, आदि न अंत तुम्हारा, तुम्हें श्रद्धा नमन हमारा। ओम जय साई राम जय साई राम, आदि न अंत तुम्हारा, तुम्हें श्रद्धा नमन हमारा। तेरा तर है दया का सागर, सब मजहब भरते हैं घागर। ओ तेरा तर है दया का सागर, सब मजहब भरते हैं घागर। पावन पारस तेरी आग, तेरा पत्थर कण कण राग, तेरा पत्थर कण कण राग। साईनाथ साईनाथ ओ साईनाथ तेरे हजारों हाथ, साईनाथ तेरे हजारों हाथ। जिसने तेरा नाम लिया, जिसने तेरा नाम लिया, तू हो लिया उसके साथ। साईनाथ साईनाथ ओ साईनाथ तेरे हजारों हाथ, साईनाथ तेरे हजारों हाथ, साईनाथ तेरे हजारों हाथ, साईनाथ तेरे हजारों हाथ। सद्गुरु साईनाथ महाराज की जय। नाना साहेब निमोणकर बाबा के क्लोज डिवोटीज थे, भक्त थे। नानासाहेब चांदोरकर, उनकी कन्या मैनाताई, उनको प्रसूति का योग आया। कंडीशन बहुत क्रिटिकल थी, डिफिकल्ट थी। एक तो बच्चा बचने वाला था या माँ। चांदोरकर बहुत चिंता में थे, दुखी थे। मन ही मन में बाबा की प्रार्थना करने लगे, बाबा आप आओ, मेरी बेटी को बचाओ। इधर जब बाबा को इस बात का पता चल गया तो बाबा ने अपने भक्त उदी और माधवराव लिखित आरती साईं बाबा यह देकर जामनेर भेजा। जब वो जामनेर पहुंचे तो किस प्रकार का चमत्कार हुआ आप सभी ने साई चरित्र पढ़ा ही होगा। जब नाना साहेब चांदोरकर के हाथ में उदी और आरती लगी, अपनी बेटी को चांदोरकर जी ने उदी लगाया। उसका स्वास्थ्य, उसकी तबीयत एकदम ठीक हो गई। बेटा भी सुखरूप हुआ और मैनाताई की जान भी बच गई। मन ही मन में नाना साहेब आनंदी हो गए, बाबा के गुणगान करने लगे। इधर बाबा ने अपने प्राण ब्रह्मांडी चढ़ाए। मारसापति के गोदी में बाबा 3 दिन के लिए सो गए। सब भक्त जमा हो गए, बाबा को प्रार्थना करने लगे कि बाबा आप आ जाओ, अपनी आंखें खोलो बाबा, बाबा अपनी आंखें खोलो। इसी पार्श्वभूमि पर एक सुंदर सा गीत आपके सामने प्रस्तुत है। साईं बाबा बोलो, साईं बाबा बोलो, साईं बाबा बोलो, साईं बाबा बोलो। साईं बाबा बोलो, 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 साईं बाबा बोलो। जगमग जग ये डोल रहा है, जगमग जग ये डोल रहा है। आसन से मत डोलो, साईं बाबा बोलो, साईं बाबा बोलो, साईं बाबा बोलो, साईं बाबा बोलो। आंखें सोनी मन रोता है, आंखें सोनी मन रोता है। बाबा हमारा क्यों सोता है, बाबा हमारा क्यों सोता है। खोल के देख ले बाबा, बोलो, साईं बाबा 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 बोलो। तू तो रहमत खुदा की साईं,
तू तो रहमत खुदा की साईं,
तू तो मोहब्बत खुदा की साईं,
तू तो मोहब्बत खुदा की साईं,
तू तो सूरत खुदा की साईं, तू
तो सूरत खुदा की साईं,
तू तो मूरत खुदा की साईं,
तू तो मूरत खुदा की
साईं, तू तो शौहरत खुदा की साईं। तुम बिन जीवन व्यर्थ है साईं, तुम बिन जीवन व्यर्थ है साईं। आबे जम जम बोलो, शाम साईं बोलो, शाम साईं बोलो, शाम साईं बोलो, शाम साईं बोलो, साईं बाबा बोलो, साईं बाबा बोलो,
साईं बाबा बोलो, साईं बाबा बोलो, साईं बाबा बोलो, साईं बाबा बोलो, साईं बाबा बोलो, साईं बाबा बोलो।
के सब बंदे,
कुदरत के सब बंदे, कुदरत के सब बंदे,
कृपा कर दे नानक रूपी सब हो अनगे चंगे,
सब हो अनगे चंगे, सब हो अनगे चंगे,
हो सब हो अनगे चंगे। सब ग्रंथों का अर्थ तुम्ही हो,
सब ग्रंथों का अर्थ तुम्ही हो,
प्रेम की वाणी बोलो, साईं साईं बोलो, श्याम साईं बोलो, राम साईं बोलो,
पाल साईं बोलो,
साईं बाबा
बोलो, साईं बाबा बोलो, साईं बाबा बोलो, साईं बाबा बोलो, साईं बाबा बोलो, साईं बाबा बोलो, साईं बाबा बोलो, साईं बाबा बोलो।
साईं राम साईं श्याम साईं श्याम साईं राम,
साईं राम साईं श्याम साईं राम साईं श्याम,
अल्लाह साईं मौला साईं, अल्लाह साईं मौला साईं,
अल्लाह साईं मौला साईं, अल्लाह साईं मौला साईं,
शिशु साईं भोला साईं, भोला साईं शिशु साईं,
शिशु साईं भोला साईं, भोला साईं शिशु साईं,
सत्य राम वाहेगुरु सत्य राम,
हे फतेह राम वाहेगुरु फतेह राम,
साईं राम साईं श्याम साईं राम साईं श्याम,
साईं राम साईं श्याम साईं
साईं
राम
बाबा,
साईं राम साईं श्याम साईं राम साईं श्याम, साईं राम साईं श्याम साई श्याम साई राम 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 साई राम साई श्याम साई राम
बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद आप सभी का। हेलो। बहुत ही प्यारा सा एक सुंदर बाबा की पालकी, बाबा का शोभा यात्रा का वर्णन आपके सामने कर रहा हूं। बाबा हर रोज नित्य नियमानुसार कभी द्वारका माई में रहते थे तो कभी चावड़ी में रहते थे। सन 1920 के बाद कुछ भक्तों के मन में ख्याल आया, विचार आया कि क्यों ना बाबा की एक भव्य शोभा यात्रा निकाली जाए, एक भव्य पालकी निकाली जाए। माधवराव देशपांडे द्वारा यह प्रस्ताव बाबा के सामने रखा गया। जब बाबा ने इस प्रस्ताव को मान्यता दी तो एक दिन पालकी का निश्चित किया। जिस दिन ये पालकी रहती थी, बाबा की शोभा यात्रा रहती थी, शिरडी गांव के सभी गांवकरी, सभी भक्त द्वारका माई चावड़ी में एकत्रित होते थे। फूलों से, तोरणों से द्वारका माई चावड़ी सजाते थे। जिस रास्ते से, जिस मार्ग से बाबा की शोभा यात्रा गुजरती थी, वो मार्ग, वो रास्ता राधा कृष्ण आई और बाबा के भक्त द्वारा धोया जाता था। शेण, सारवण, रंगोली निकाली जाती थी, साफ किया जाता था। जब शाम का समय होता था, सभी गांवकरी, सभी भक्त हाथों में झंडा, पताका, ढोल, ताशा, नगारे, छान, मदिरा, लेजिम लेके एकत्रित होते थे और बाबा की द्वारका माई से आने की प्रतीक्षा करते थे, राह देखते थे। तात्या कोते पाटिल बाबा को धीरे से अपने दोनों हाथों से द्वारका माई से नीचे लेके आते थे। बाया हाथ माणसापति पकड़ते थे, दाया हाथ तात्या कोते पाटिल पकड़ते थे। पीछे से जोग छत्रधारी लिए खड़े रहते थे, छत्र लेकर बाबा के पीछे पीछे चलते थे। पालकी का एक क्रम था। सबसे आगे बाबा का श्याम सुंदर घोड़ा रहता था। उसके बाद लेजिम पतक, ढोल, ताशे, छान, नजारा सभी चलते थे। भव्य दिव्य से दिए से पूरा शिरडी गांव सजाया जाता था। द्वारका माई चावड़ी में रोशनाई होती थी। सभी जन बाबा का जोर जोर से जयकारा लगाते थे। भालदार, चौकदार बाबा का जोर जोर से जयकारा लगाते थे। श्री सच्चिदानंद सद्गुरु साईनाथ महाराज की जय। चलिए, बाबा की पालकी चल रही है। चलो, अरे लेके चलो, लेके चलो पालकी शिरडी के रात की, लेके चलो पालकी शिरडी के रात की, लेके चलो पालकी शिरडी के रात की। ताला लगा के बोलो जय साईनाथ की। लेके चलो, अरे लेके चलो, जो हो आसानी से कट जाएगा बादल सारा रास्ता। हर एक पल जब का चल तू साई के नाम का। आसानी से कट जाएगा तो भरा रास्ता।
जप करता चल तू साई के नाम का।
अरे साथ है तेरे बाबा, साथ है तेरे बाबा, बस आगे चलता जा।
अरे साथ है तेरे बाबा, बस आगे चलता जा। साई राम साई राम साई राम साई राम लेके चलो। अरे के नाथ के लेके चलो पालकी, शिरडी के नाथ की कांधा लगा के बोलो जय साई नाथ की, कांधा लगा के बोलो जय साई नाथ की। लेके चलो अरे लेके चलो।
इस दिन बाबा की पालकी का, बाबा की महाशोभा यात्रा का दिन रहता था। उस दिन सुबह से बाबा को चंदन कुटुंब से अभ्यंग स्नान कराते थे, नहाया जाता था। बाबा को भव्य अलंकार मुकुट कफनी से सजाया जाता था। रोज की तरह बाबा का पहराव रहता था, आंख में कफनी, सर पे फटका, चिलम तंबाकू लेके, हाथ में फटका लेके बाबा पालकी में विराजमान रहते थे। काका साहब दीक्षित फूलों का वर्षाव करते थे। बाबा के चेहरे का तांबूस स्वर्ण रंग मानो जैसे आकाश से बाल सूर्य बाबा के साथ चल रहा हो। बाबा की मनमोहक दृष्टि सबको मनमोहित करती थी। झूमते फिरते सभी जन बाबा का जोर जोर से जयकारा लगाते थे। कोई बाबा की पालकी सजाता था, कोई बाबा को फूलों का वर्षाव करता था, तो कोई आरती करता था, तो कोई बाबा की नजर उतारता था। बैठे वो 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 बैठे सच सच के बाबा, और मंद मंद मुस्काए। बैठे
सज धज के बाबा और मंद मंद मुस्काए।
बैठे सच सच के बाबा और मंद मंद मुस्काए।
बट सज धज के बाबा और मंद मंद मुस्काए।
आओ नजर उतारे बाबा की,
आओ नजर उतारे बाबा की,
भक्तों की नजर ना लग जाए। ओ बैठे ओ बैठे ओ बैठे सच सच के बाबा और मंद मंद
मुस्काए। बट सज धज के बाबा और मंद मंद मुस्काए।
जय हो। ओम श्री सच्चिदानंद स्वरूप साईनाथ महाराज की
जय।
साई का मुखड़ा बोला है,
साई का मुखड़ा बोला है,
कफनी में चंदा लिपटा है।
कफनी में चंदा लिपटा है।
प्यारे प्यारे मुखड़े को,
ऐसे प्यारे प्यारे मुखड़े को,
सुंदर सुंदर मुखड़े को,
ऐसे सुंदर सुंदर मुखड़े को
आपकी नजर ना लग जाए। वो बैठे वो बैठे वो बैठे वो बैठे सच सच के बाबा और
बट सज धज के बाबा और मंद मंद मुस्काए। बट सज धज के बाबा और मंद मंद मुस्काए।
कुछ दिन के बाद जो आप देख रहे हैं काला मारुति मंदिर, कपनीनाथ बाबा का मंदिर, उसके सामने बाबा की शोभा यात्रा एक 10 मिनट के लिए रुक जाती थी। अपना पाया हाथ 3 बार ऊपर नीचे करके बाबा कुछ क्रिया करते थे। सौर्याधारी सौर्या ढलते थे, कुछ मखमली पंखों से लोग बाबा को हवा चला देते थे, हवा डालते थे। भोले बाबा सबको अपनी भोले दृष्टि से निहराते थे। ऐसा लगता था जैसे स्वर्ग से भोले बाबा की सवारी आ रही है। मानसापति और कुछ भक्त बाबा की भक्ति में तुल्य होके, धुंध होके जोर जोर से नाचते थे, गाते थे और कहते थे डम 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 डमरू बजे बोल साईनाथ शिव शंभू भजे,
बोल साईनाथ शिव शंभू भजे, डमरू बजे बोल साईनाथ शिव शंभू भजे, साईनाथ शिव शंभू भजे। घन 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 घंटा बजे, घन 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 घंटा बजे,
साईनाथ शिव शंभू भजे,
बोल साईनाथ शिव शंभू भजे, डम 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 डमरू बजे, डमरू बजे बोल साईनाथ शिव शंभू भजे, बोल साईनाथ शिव शंभू भजे।
अरे चलती रे चलती रे चलती रे चलती रे पालकी, ओ चलती रे चलती रे चलती रे चलती चलती पालकी, शिरडी के साईनाथ की
चली रे चाल की, शिरडी के साईनाथ की।
अरे भला करेगा अल्लाह तेरा, ओ
भला करेगा अल्लाह तेरा,
आई गली 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 चलती रे पालकी,
शिरडी के साईनाथ की। चली रे पाल के, शिरडी के साईनाथ की। ओ चली रे पाल के, शिरडी के साईनाथ की।
फिर से कुछ देर बाद बाबा की शोभा यात्रा, बाबा की पालकी द्वारकामाई में आती थी। चाचा कोते पाटिल धीरे से बाबा को द्वारकामाई लेके जाते थे। नाना साहब चांदोरकर बाबा को बीड़े का प्रसाद देते थे। सभी गांवकरी पालकी में सभी उपस्थित भक्त बाबा से दर्शन लेके, प्रसाद लेके अपने घर लौट जाते थे। दोस्तों, यही प्रथा भारत के हर साई मंदिर में शुरू है। बाबा के विजयादशमी के पावन अवसर पर, बाबा के उत्सव पर हर मंदिर में, हर साई मंदिर में धूमधाम से पालकी निकलती है। और यही मनोकामना हम बाबा से पाते हैं कि बाबा सदैव आपके चरणों में हमें रहने दो और ऐसा ही गुणगान करने दो। श्री सच्चिदानंद सद्गुरु
साईनाथ महाराज की जय। शिरडी के साईनाथ की। चली रे पाल की, शिरडी के साईनाथ की। ओम साई नमो नमः, श्री साई नमो नमः, जय जय साई नमो नमः, सद्गुरु साई नमो नमः। ओम साई नमो नमः। ओम साई नमो नमः, श्री साई सद्गुरु साई नमो नमः। ओम साई नमो नमः। सद्गुरु 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 साई नमो
महाराज की जय। बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया आप सभी साईं भक्तों का। एक बहुत ही प्यारी सी कव्वाली बाबा की खिदमत में पेश है, आपके सामने प्रस्तुत है। बड़ी दूर दूर से, दुनिया भर से यहाँ श्रद्धालु बाबा के भक्त बाबा की शरण आते हैं, बाबा का दर्शन करने को आते हैं। कोई पैदल आता है, कोई मोटर से आता है, कोई रेलवे से आता है। ऐसा ही एक सुंदर सी गीत, सुंदर सा कव्वाली बाबा की खिदमत में पेश है, आपके सामने प्रस्तुत है। बड़ी दूर से मैं तेरे दर पे आया, ओ फरियाद सुन ले ओ मेरे साईं बाबा। ओ शिरडी के साईं बाबा रे,
शिरडी के साई बाबा रे, शिरडी के साई बाबा रे, बाबा रे आजा रे साई रे। ओ बड़ी दूर से मैं तेरे दर पे आया, बड़ी दूर से मैं तेरे दर पे आया।
ओ फरियाद सुन ले ओ मेरे साईं बाबा,
फरियाद सुन ले हो मेरे साईं बाबा। ओ शिरडी के साईं बाबा रे, 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 बाबा रे आजा रे साईं रे। बड़ी दूर से मैं तेरे दर पे आया, बड़ी दूर से मैं तेरे दर पे आया।
जय हो।
पानी से जलते, नहीं देर लगती मुकद्दर बदलते।
आंखों की तूने जो बिगड़ी बनाई,
आंखों की तूने जो बिगड़ी बनाई,
बिगड़ी बना मेरे साईं,
मेरी भी बिगड़ी बना मेरे साईं। ओ शिरडी के साईं बाबा रे, शिरडी के साईं बाबा रे, शिरडी के साईं बाबा रे, बाबा रे आजा रे साईं रे। बड़ी दूर से मैं तेरे दर पे आया, बड़ी दूर से मैं तेरे दर पे आया।
या उपस्थित सभी भक्तजन, यहाँ कौन कौन बड़ी दूर से आया है और बाबा से आशीर्वाद प्राप्त किया है? एक बार दोनों हाथ को उठाओ। यहाँ कौन कौन दूर से आया है और बाबा का आशीर्वाद प्राप्त किया है? क्या बात है। चलिए दोस्तों, एक बार बाबा की खिदमत में, बाबा के समाधि मंदिर के सामने आज की विजयादशमी पावन अवसर पर बाबा का जोरदार जयकारा लगाते, लेकिन सभी का आवाज आना चाहिए। राजा विराज योगी राज पर ब्रह्म श्री सच्चिदानंद सद्गुरु साईनाथ महाराज की जय।
मददगार मेरा, जमाने में ना कोई मददगार मेरा,
तू ही एक बाबा है सब कुछ मेरा,
तू ही एक बाबा है सब कुछ मेरा। दया कर तू सबका भला करे, मदद करो गरीबों के वाले। शिरडी के साईं बाबा रे, 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 बाबा रे आजा रे साईं रे, बड़ी दूर से मंदिर, बड़ी दूर से मंदिर दर पे आया।
फरियाद सुन ले ओ मेरे साईं बाबा,
फरियाद सुन ले ओ मेरे साईं बाबा। शिरडी के साईं बाबा रे, 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 बड़ी दूर से मैं तेरे दर पे आया, 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 बड़ी दूर से मैं तेरे दर पे आया।
बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद आप सभी का। हेलो हेलो, हेलो। आज विजयादशमी है, बाबा का महासमाधि दिन, और आज ही के दिन बाबा ने अपने प्राण ब्रह्मांड में विलीन किए थे। हमारे टीम का सौभाग्य है, आप सभी भक्तजन यहाँ विराजमान हैं। हम सभी का सौभाग्य है कि आज ही के दिन सन 1938 15 अक्टूबर 1938 में बाबा ने समाधि ली। 2:15 पर बाबा ने समाधि ली। यही समय था, हमारे ये अच्छी कर्म है। इसी वक्त हमें शिरडी संस्थान ने साई भजन का वक्त दिया। बाबा ने जिस दिन समाधि ली उसी दिन विजयादशमी, मुहर्रम, बुद्ध पूर्णिमा, एकादशी, बाबा ने अपने मृत्यु का समय, ब्रह्मांड में विलीन होने का समय पहले ही निश्चित किया था। साई चरित्र 47 अनुसार बाबा के पास एक ईंट थी। वो ईंट बाबा के गुरु वेंकटेशानी जी चलते फिरते उठते बैठते बाबा के पास वो ईंट रहती थी। वो ईंट के प्रति बाबा को बड़ा प्रेम था। बाबा की वो जीवन संगिनी थी। द्वारका माई की साफ सफाई करते करते एक साई भक्त महादू के नाम से, महादू के हाथों से वो ईंट गिर गई और उसके टुकड़े हो गए। तभी बाबा ने अपना ब्रह्मांड में विलीन होने का समय निश्चित किया। इधर कुछ दिन बाद तात्या साहेब पोते की तबीयत खराब हो गई। तात्या साहेब पोते ने बिछाना पकड़ लिया। दर्द होने लगा। तात्या साहब पोते का मृत्यु नजदीक आने लगा। जब बाबा को इस बात का पता चला तो बाबा ने तात्या पोते पाटिल के सपने में जाके कहा कि तात्या, तुम्हें कुछ नहीं होगा। तुम्हारा दर्द, तुम्हारा दुख, तुम्हारा मृत्यु मैं हरण करूंगा। कुछ दिन के बाद तात्या की तबीयत अच्छी होने लगी और बाबा ने बिछाना पकड़ लिया, बेड पकड़ लिया। बाबा के शरीर का तापमान बढ़ने लगा। बाबा ने अन्न जल सब त्याग दिया और अपने आखिरी समय का इंतजार करने लगे। जब सारे भक्तों में ये बात फैल गई, दूर दूर से सारे भक्त निमोणकर, दीक्षित, कुटी, माधवराव देशपांडे सभी बाबा के पास आ गए। वैद्य हकीमों ने भी हाथ ऊपर कर दिए। जब समय नजदीक आने लगा तो बाबा ने अपने सभी भक्त को भोजन के लिए भेज दिया, क्योंकि अपने भक्तों की मोह माया में बाबा अड़कना नहीं चाहते थे। बाबा के पास सिर्फ 3 भक्त थे, नाना साहेब निमोणकर, बयाजी पाटिल, लक्ष्मी आई शिंदे। अपने नवविधा भक्ति के 9 नाणे बाबा ने लक्ष्मी जी को दिए। तात्या पोते पाटिल को भी उन्होंने भोजन के लिए भेज दिया। बयाजी पोते की बाहों में बाबा सो गए। उनके मांडी पर बाबा ने सर रख दिया। आखिरी समय, आखिरी हिचकी बाबा ने लगाई और काका करके जोर से बाबा चिल्लाए। काका साहब निमोणकर ने आखिर के 2 घूंट बाबा को पानी पिलाया और बाबा ने अपने प्राण ब्रह्मांड में विलीन कर दिए 2:30 पर। जैसे ही भक्तों में ये बात फैल गई, सभी दौड़ते दौड़ते आ गए, रोने लगे, चिल्लाने लगे, सर पटक पट रोने लगे। बाबा, बाबा ये क्या हो गया, बाबा ये क्या हो गया। कितनी दुखनीय, दयनीय वो पल हो गए जिन्होंने ये पल अनुभव किया है। किसी पार्श्वभूमि पर एक गीत आधारित है। मुझे बुटीवाड़े में लेके चलो, यह बाबा के आखिरी शब्द थे। सब गांव करी, सब भक्त बाबा को विनोनी करने लगे। बाबा उठो, बाबा हमारा कैसा होगा, बाबा आप हमें अनाथ करके चले गए, बाबा उठो, बाबा उठो। साई राम, साई राम, साई राम, साई राम। उस दिन को सारी दुनिया थी रोई, जब तूने अपनी प्राण जोत थी बुझाई। उस दिन को सारी दुनिया थी रोई, जब तूने अपनी प्राण ज्योत थी बुझाई। साई राम साई राम साई राम साई राम। कितने फुट फुट कर रोए, कितने बेहोश हो गए, कितने तेरी याद में खोए, कितनों के दिल टूट गए। कितने फुट फुट कर रोए, कितने बेहोश हो गए, कितने तेरी याद में खोए, कितनों के दिल टूट गए। अंबर भी रोया, धरती भी रोई, जब तूने अपनी प्राण ज्योत थी बुझाई। साई राम साई राम साई राम साई सब बोल रहे थे बाबा मत जाओ हमें छोड़ के, तुम बिन हम रह नहीं सकते, आओ बाबा लौट के, आओ बाबा लौट के। पहन के कफनी बांध के फटका, चिमटा कटोरा लेकर आओ बाबा लौट के, आओ बाबा लौट के। सब बोल रहे थे बाबा मत जाओ हमें छोड़ के, तुम बिन हम रह नहीं सकते, आओ बाबा लौट के, आओ बाबा लौट के। तुमसे ही थी हमारी दुनिया बसाई, कैसे जिएंगे अब तुम बिन साई। साई राम साई वो द्वारका माई सुनी सुनी हुई थी। दिन रात हर पल हर समय द्वारका माई में भजन कीर्तन हरिनाम का जप चलता था, भक्तों की चहल पहल चलती थी। द्वारका माई रो रो कर पुकार रही है। द्वारका माई अपने बाबा को बेटा मानती थी और बाबा भी द्वारका माई को माँ करके पुकारते थे। सुनी सुनी हो गई द्वारका माई, द्वारका माई रो रो कर पुकार रही है। तेरी छत्र छाया में हम सपने सुजान रे, तू जो चला गया तो हम हो गए अजान रे। तेरी छत्र छाया में हम सब थे सुजान रे, तू जो चला गया तो हम हो गए अनाथ रे। सुनी सुनी हो गई तेरी द्वार कमाई, बुला रही तुझको आजा बेटे साई, आजा बेटे साई, आजा बेटे साई। उस दिन तो सारी दुनिया थी रोई, जिस दिन तूने अपनी प्राण ज्योति बुझाई, जिस दिन तूने अपनी प्राण ज्योति बुझाई। साई राम, साई आप सभी का बहुत बहुत दिल से धन्यवाद। आप सभी ने ये गीत शांतता से सुना। हम बाबा को आस लगाए कि बाबा फिर से आप लौट के आ जाओ, बाबा फिर से आप लौट के आ जाओ। दोस्तों, भजन के साई भजन के आखिरी 2 गीत, क्योंकि समय बहुत हमें कम मिला है, 3 बजे यह कार्यक्रम समाप्त करना है। आखिरी के 2 गीत हम प्रस्तुत कर रहे हैं और उसके बाद आप सभी से अलविदा लेंगे, अलविदा लेंगे, अलविदा लेंगे। दरबार तेरा बाबा, दरबार तेरा बाबा। La 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 लाखों हजारों आते हैं बाबा तेरे दरबार में, झोलियां सबकी भरती है तेरे बाजार पे। हो तेरा दर तो हकीकत में दुखियों का सहारा है, तेरा दर तो हकीकत में दुखियों का सहारा है। हो दरबार तेरा बाबा, हो दरबार तेरा बाबा, जन्नत का नजारा है। दरबार तेरा बाबा, जन्नत का नजारा है। वो तेरा दर तो हकीकत में दुनिया का सहारा है, तेरा दर तो हकीकत में दुखियों का नजारा है। वो दरबार तेरा बाबा, वो दरबार तेरा बाबा, जन्नत का नजारा
बिगड़ी हुई तकदीरें पल भर में बनाते हैं।
अपना दिल रखो बाबा, अपना दिल
रखो बाबा, अब मैंने पुकारा है।
वो तेरा दर तो हकीकत में दुखियों का सहारा,
तेरा दर तो हकीकत में दुखियों का सहारा है। दरबार सजया बाबा, दरबार तेरा बाबा, जन्नत का नजारा है। दरबार तेरा बाबा, जन्नत का नजारा है। कश्ती है और दूर किनारा है।
टूटी हुई कश्ती है, अब दूर किनारा है। अब पार करो नैया, अब पार करो नैया, तुझे
अब पार करो नैया, तुझे मैंने पुकारा है।
वो तेरा दर तो
हकीकत में
दुखियों का ठिकाना है।
तेरा दर तो हकीकत में दुखियों का सहारा है। दरबार तेरा बाबा, दरबार तेरा बाबा, जन्नत का नजारा है। दरबार तेरा बाबा, जन्नत का नजारा है।
जिसने भी पुकारा है, दौड़े चले आते हो।
जिसने भी पुकारा है, दौड़े चले आते हो।
जिसने भी पुकारा है, दौड़े चले आते हो। तेरे दर के ही टुकड़ों पर, हो तेरे दर के ही टुकड़ों पर हम सबका बसेरा है। हो तेरे दर के ही
टुकड़ों पर हम सबका गुजारा है।
हो तेरे
दर तो हकीकत में दुखियों का सहारा है। तेरा दर तो हकीकत में दुखियों का सहारा है। दरबार सजा बाबा, दरबार तेरा बाबा, का नजारा है, दरबार तेरा बाबा जन्नत का नजारा है, दरबार तेरा है, जन्नत का नजारा है।
सदगुरु साईनाथ
महाराज की जय।
आखिरी ये दो गीत आपके सामने प्रस्तुत करते हैं। बाबा से फरियाद करते हैं, बाबा से प्रार्थना करते हैं कि बाबा हम सबकी झोली भर दो, हम सबकी झोली भर दो। एक खूबसूरत सी कव्वाली बाबा की खिदमत में आपके सामने प्रस्तुत है। चाहे मदीना सुनो इल्तिजा खुदा के लिए करम हो मुझे पर हबीबे खुदा खुदा हुजूर गुंजाए उम्मीद अब तो फिर जाए, तुम्हारे दर का भिखारी हूँ तो भीख मिल जाए। ओ भर दे झोली, भर दे झोले, भर दे झोली मेरी साईं बाबा, लौट कर मैं ना जाऊंगा खाली।
भर दे झोली मेरी साईं बाबा, लौट कर मैं न जाऊंगा खाली।
भर दे झोली, भर दे झोली मेरी साईं बाबा, लौट कर मैं ना जाऊंगा खाली।
भर दे झोली मेरी साईं बाबा, लौट कर मैं न जाऊंगा खाली।
तुम्हारे आशिकान से जमाना क्या नहीं पाता,
तुम्हारे आशिकान से जमाना क्या नहीं पाता,
तुम्हारे दर से खाली मांगने वाला नहीं जाता। भर दे झोली मेरी साईं बाबा, लौट कर मैं ना जाऊंगा खाली।
भर दे झोली मेरी साईं बाबा, लौट कर मैं न जाऊंगा खाली।
तुम जमाने के मुख्तार हो या नबी,
तुम जमाने के मुख्तार हो या नबी,
बेकसों के मददगार हो या नबी,
बेकसों के मददगार हो या नबी।
सबके सुनते हो अपने हो या गैर हो,
सबके सुनते हो अपने हो या गैर हो,
तुम गरीबों के गमकार हो या नबी। भर दे झोले मेरे बाबा,
भर दे झोले मेरे बाबा, भर दे झोले मेरी साईं बाबा, लौट कर मैं न जाऊंगा खाली। भर दे झोले मेरी साईं बाबा, लौट कर मैं न जाऊंगा खाली। मुसीबत के मारे हुए,
सबसे मुश्किल में है सबके हारे हुए,
सबसे मुश्किल में है सबके हारे हुए।
या बाबा खुदाया हमें भीख दो,
या नन्या खुदाया हमें भीख दो,
दर में झोली पसारे हुए आए हुए, भर दे झोली मेरे साईं, भर दे झोली मेरे बाबा, भर दे झोली मेरी
साईं बाबा कर मैं न जाऊंगा खाली, भर दे झोली मेरी साईं बाबा कर मैं न जाऊंगा खाली।
खोजते खोजते तुझको देखा, जान सकाया नबी हो गया हो, खोजते खोजते
तुझको देखा क्या क्या मैं ले रहा हूँ,
बेखबर दर बदर फिर रहा हो, मैं यहाँ से वहाँ हो गया हो,
बेखबर मैं जा हो रहा हूँ, मैं यहाँ से वहाँ हो गया हूँ।
मुझे बाबा मेरे गम का दिलासा, आया हो दूर से मैं हो के दिलासा,
फिर गया कभी मुझे गम का दिलासा, आया कहते तेरे गम का दिलासा।
तलक 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 ना रहे या नबी,
बरदे झोले
मेरे बाबा,
बरदे झोले
मेरे साईं,
बरदे झोले मेरे साईं बाबा लौट कर मैं न जाऊंगा खाली, बरदे झोले मेरी साईं बाबा लौट कर मैं न जाऊंगा खाली।
तुम्हारे आशिकाने से जमाना क्या नहीं पाता,
तुम्हारे आशिकाने से जमाना क्या नहीं पाता,
खुदा से दर से खाली मांगने वाला नहीं जाता,
बरदे झोले
मेरी साईं बाबा, हेलो की
बरदे झोले मेरी साईं बाबा लौट कर मैं न जाऊंगा खाली, मेरी साईं बाबा लौट कर मैं न जाऊंगा खाली, बरदे झोले मेरी साईं बाबा लौट कर मैं न जाऊंगा खाली, बरदे मैं न जाऊंगा खाली, लौट कर मैं न जाऊंगा खाली, लौट कर मैं न जाऊंगा खाली।
सद्गुरु साईनाथ महाराज की
जय।
आप सभी का बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद। साई मेडिकल ग्रुप वर्धा की ओर से आप सभी का हम शुक्रगुजार है कि आपने बहुत बढ़िया हमें सहयोग किया, सहकार्य किया, रिस्पॉन्स दिया। मैं फिर से एक बार साई शिरडी संस्थान के मैनेजमेंट बॉडी का दिल से आभारी हूँ कि उन्होंने कल से हमारी बहुत सुंदर व्यवस्था की, रहने के लिए रूम हमें प्रोवाइड की, सुबह का ब्रेकफास्ट, चाय, लंच, डिनर सभी साई संस्था ने हमें उपलब्ध कर दिया। बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद। विजयादशमी के पावन अवसर पर हमें यहाँ बाबा की खिदमत में भजन, साई भजन प्रस्तुत करने का मौका दिया। आखिरी गीत बाबा की कव्वाली बाबा की खिदमत में पेश है, आपके सामने प्रस्तुत है, और उसके बाद आप सभी से अलविदा लेंगे। जमाने में कहा टूटी हुई तस्वीर बनती है, तेरे दरबार में बिगड़ी हुई तकदीर बनती है। तारीफ तेरी निकली है दिल से, आए हैं लब पे पक्के कव्वाल,
शिरडी वाले साईं बाबा आया है तेरे दर पे सवारी।
ओ दर पे सवाली आया है, दर पे सवाली ओ बाबा।
शिरडी वाले साईं बाबा आया है तेरे दर पे सवारी।
देवा तेरे सब नाम लेवा, जुदाई मान तारे सभी तुझको है प्यारे। सुने फरियाद सबके, तुझे है याद सबके, पढ़ाया कोई छोटा नहीं मायूस लौटा। अमीरों का सहारा, गरीबों का गुजारा, तेरी रहमत का किस्सा पाया अकबर करे क्या। दो दिन की दुनिया, दुनिया है गुलशन,
हमको मिटा दे तू सबका मालिक। शिरडी वाले साईं बाबा आया है तेरे दर पे सवाली।
रब्बे दुआएं, ओ रब्बे दुआएं, आंखों में आंसू, दिल में
उम्मीद पर जो लिखा ले। शिरडी वाले साईं बाबा आया है तेरे दर पे सवाली।
भगवान तुझमें, तुझे सब मानते हैं, तेरा घर जानते हैं। चले आते हैं दौड़े जो किस्मत है तोड़े, यहर का ही की मंजिल, यहर कश्ती का साहिल। जिसे सबने निकाला उसे तूने संभाला, जिसे सबने निकाला उसे बिछड़ों को मिला दे, पूछे से पग जला दे।
बिछड़ों को मिला दे, मुझे दीपक जला दे। बिछड़ों को मिला दे, मुझे दीपक जला दे।
इनको बना दे वाली।
शिरडी वाले साईं बाबा आया है तेरे दर पे सवाली। शिरडी वाले साईं बाबा आया है तेरे दर पे सवाली।
तुझमें खुदा की शान तुझमें, जिसे भगवान तुझमें, तुझे सब मानते हैं, तेरा घर जानते हैं। चले आते हैं दौड़े जब किस्मत है तोड़े, यहर का ही की मंजिल, यहर कश्ती का साहिल। जिसे को मिला दे, पूछे दीपक जला दे,
तो बिछड़ों को मिला दे, मुझे दीपक जला दे, तो बिछड़ों को मिला दे, मुझे दीपक जला दे। ये गम की रातें रातें काली, इनको बना दे ईद और दिवाली। दिवाले साईं बाबा आया है तेरे दर पे सवाली, शिरडी वाले साईं बाबा आया है तेरे दर पे सवाली। शिरडी लबे दुआएं आंखों में आंसू, दिल में दुआएं आंखों में आंसू, दिल में उम्मीदें पर गोली वाले शिरडी वाले साईं बाबा आया है तेरे दर पे सवाली। शिरडी वाले साईं बाबा आया है तेरे दर पे सवाली। शिरडी वाले साईं बाबा आया है तेरे दर पे सवाली। शिरडी वाले साईं बाबा आया है तेरे दर पे सवाली। शिरडी वाले साईं बाबा आया है तेरे दर पे सवाली। साईं बाबा
बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद आप सभी का। जय साईं,
जय साईं, जय साईं।
भजन संध्या का इस भजन का आखिरी गीता कृपया सबसे नम्र विनंती है कि डांस मत कीजिए, क्योंकि संस्थान के तरफ से ऐसा ही नियम रखा है। आखिरी गीत भजन का हमने पेश किया, आप सबसे अलविदा लेते हैं। जय साई राम, जय साई राम।
जय साईं।
Today we're speaking about one of my favorite topics, Shri Krishna.
Krishna lived for 107 years.
I believe he was supposed to be the same age as Arjun. And the war then would have been fought when they were 70 something or 80 something.
Don't forget, Bhishma was 140 plus and he fought for the first 10 days and really gave a tough time to the Pandava side. Draupadi Vastraranya, when that is happening and Dushasana brings Draupadi to the Rajya Sabha, she says Krishna, Krishna, and what happened?
He allows the sari to be infinite.
Correct? But I am saying in that sense Draupadi Vastraranya did not happen. Krishna says, if I was there, I would have killed them right there.
Shri Krishna was born right after the spring.
Yeah.
I wonder why Janmashtami is then celebrated in like September.
That's a great question. When Vasudev is taking Krishna and going to Vrindavan, what you will see is from Mathura to Vrindavan, you don't have to cross Yamuna. Vasudev simply walked along the bank of Yamuna and went to Vrindavan. Why Krishna came from Mathura to Dwarka? Any idea? The scene is
Nilesh Oak returns on TRS. If you have not watched his previous 2 episodes, which were centered around the Mahabharat and Ramayan, I do recommend that you check those out. Ideally, before you listen in on this particular episode, this one is more specific towards Krishna. As is the case with any of the Nilesh Oak episodes, it's a realistic take on the culture and history of our country. We examine the Mahabharat, the Ramayan and the other events of Bharat with great detail and with a scientific temperament. Nilesh Oak's subject is all about dating the Ramayan and the Mahabharat, the realistic aspects of these pieces of history. You will enjoy Nilesh Oak's work if you enjoy any of the Sanatan Dharma related episodes. It's Nilesh Oak who returns for another special on TRS. Nilesh Oak is very, very welcome back on TRS.
Ranveer, how are you?
I am still kind of shaken up by our 2 conversations the last time. Just very happy to be speaking to you again.
Very happy myself.
Today we're speaking about one of my favorite topics and this podcast's favorite topics, which is Shri Krishna. So to give the audience context on how this episode came about, we just reached out to Nilesh sir, knowing that we're going to record multiple more episodes. But this was the topic you chose.
Correct.
Why did you choose this particular topic for today?
The reason I chose this topic is because if you go back trying to trace our history, when I say our history, to start with the India's history, but frankly, if we have to connect the dots into the world history, the first landmark, like a sheet anchor that I can think of going backwards in time, is Mahabharata. And Mahabharata can be discussed in many ways, but specifically from a historical perspective, the person for which we have amazing information, amazingly complete information, is Bhagwan Krishna. So I thought we'll pick that character and especially try to get rid of some of the misconceptions that exist among Indians, but also around the world, as to like India doesn't have a history, they don't have the records, they don't have the evidence. In fact, what I would like to do is to show that how there is much more evidence for Bhagwan Krishna, who was here 7,500 years plus, in comparison to even the world personalities that we know they existed even less than 2,000 years ago. And that's the point I want to make. And therefore, I chose this.
Okay. The obvious first question is, where's the evidence?
Where is the evidence? Okay. Well, let's even go back one step and let's talk about what is evidence. So if we go more than 1,000 years, I'll pull few personalities. Let's say from an Indian context, Kalidas, Panini, and we don't know their exact timing. Shankaracharya, Adi Shankaracharya. Who else? Aryabhata, okay, Bhaskara the one. If you go around the world, look at Greece. Alexander, very good, connected with India in some fashion. Aristotle, Plato, Socrates, Pythagoras, from Rome.
Caesar.
Julius Caesar, excellent. Seneca, Jesus Christ. So all the names that I just said, put them on one side and let's put Rama and Krishna, but we'll focus only on Krishna on the other side. If I ask you, who do you think has more archaeology evidence? This one group that occurred relatively speaking, say 2,000 years ago, and the other group, or just take Bhagwan Krishna, more than 7,500 years ago. What is your intuition? Who has more archaeology evidence?
I'm speaking to Nilesh Oak. So obviously the weighing scale is tilted towards Bhagavan Shri Krishna.
Right. So when it comes to evidence, there is no archaeology evidence, zero archaeology evidence for Jesus Christ, Alexander, Panini, Kalidas, and so on. In comparison, if you look at Krishna, and we'll talk about this, there is a tremendous evidence. Like there is a celestial evidence that is also archaeology evidence. Because think of it, on the ground, you can actually, if somebody wants to play games, they can mismatch the evidence. They can hide certain evidence that is actually found. You cannot do that with the celestial evidence. That evidence is there in the books. People did not understand it, but through reverence, they just remembered it for hundreds and thousands of years. They did not even understand it. Now, with the help of modern science, we look at it and bingo, we can actually find an event that just happened only 7,500 years ago. It did not happen since. And even if you go back, it did not happen for another 10,000 years. This is, in science, we call it crucial evidence, which leads to crucial experiments. That's the kind of evidence we are looking for. And we'll talk about the modern examples.
Let's do a bit of a recap about what we did on the previous episodes.
Great idea.
So I remember there was a lot of celestial evidence talk in those as well. There was a lot of terrestrial evidence talk in those as well. So for terrestrial, you actually pulled out Valmiki's Ramayana, pulled out certain shlokas, and then tied it into what we see even in the modern day. For example, that South America connection of Ramayana, which has still blown my mind. Like I still think about that particular facet, and I highly recommend that everyone check out those episodes before checking out this one, unless you're very obsessed with Shri Krishna, which is all right, then keep watching. The second thing you spoke about was the exact dating of the Mahabharata, which was
5561 BCE.
Okay.
So 7,584 or 85 now years ago.
You know, this is how I describe you to my friends who've not seen those episodes, that you've picked out these two exact dates of the Mahabharata and the Ramayana, and how all the rest of your work is actually built out around that, and you're constantly finding more and more evidence which backs your findings.
Yes.
So do you want to cover any aspect from the last episode, just as a bit of a recap for people who probably not going to see those episodes now?
Okay.
Or for people who've not seen it right now and want to continue watching this.
Right. Well, they should watch this, but I'm confident once they watch this, they will feel like going back and watching those other two. We can take a segue from last time, which is we discuss Krishna's Dwarka and is getting flooded and destroyed by sea rising waters. Right. So Krishna, in the scheme of avatarhood, like avatar of Vishnu's, Krishna is considered the 8th avatar. But Krishna was a historical person who lived literally in the blood and flesh and bones 7,500 years ago, approximately, exactly same time as Mahabharata. He's one of the key characters in Mahabharata. Interestingly, in the entire story of Mahabharata, now Mahabharata is the longest epic of humanity. Just to give an idea, how big is Mahabharata? Many people, especially around the world, know of the Greek epics, Iliad and Odyssey. If you combine Iliad and Odyssey in terms of the volume, multiply that by 8 times, that's what Mahabharata is, about 100,000 shlok or 125,000 shlok, especially if you add the appendix, Khila Parva, called Harivansha. The Harivansha literally means what? The genealogy of Hari, namely Krishna. So the idea is, in Mahabharata, Krishna comes relatively speaking late. In fact, Krishna is related to Pandava brothers. So Kunti is Bua of Krishna. The first time face-to-face Pandava brothers and Krishna meet is when they are 33 years old. And do you know the instance when they met? That is Draupadi Swayamvar, when Pandavas are getting married to Draupadi. That is the first time they meet. So in that sense, lot of has already has happened to Pandavas. So lot of things have gone by. So Krishna in a way enters late. Then of course the Pandavas are married to Draupadi, so Krishna is in connection with them. Then Pandavas rule for some time. Then they go to Vanvas, to the forest. Krishna is along with them. I mean, he's not gone there, but he's always there supporting. And then after 14 years, the actually Mahabharata Yuddha takes place. Krishna is with them, since then. But he comes on the scene very late. Krishna is also a very strategic, like a statecraft character from a Pandava side in basically this whole game of a Mahabharata. So he's very important for that. But let me fast forward. After the Mahabharata war is over, they do some yajna, like Ashwamedha yajna again. After that, Krishna returns to Dwarka and so on. 36 years go by. And that's when we start talking of Krishna's biography, which is flooding and destruction of Krishna's Dwarka. That is the exact time when Krishna passed away. But what is interesting is, once that was done, and Vyasadeva wrote Mahabharata about 18 years after the Mahabharata war. But after that Mahabharata was written, Vyasadeva, the writer of Mahabharata, and his team, they did not feel happy. They felt like something is missing. And that something is missing, they said, look, Krishna is such an important character in this, but he felt, although there is enough of information about Krishna, the whole Bhagavad Gita and whatnot, there is a Anu Gita, multiple Gitas by Krishna in Mahabharata, he felt he has not written enough about Krishna. Therefore, Vyasadeva sat down, maybe with his disciples, to write down the appendix, Harivamsha. Very interesting. After finishing Harivamsha, he felt, I did some justice, but not enough. So then he sat down to write Srimad Bhagavad Puran. And again, Bhagavad Puran, it goes back into deep antiquity, but it ends with the describing the pastimes, glories, and activities of Krishna.
When you're taught about Krishna in the modern day, people view Krishna as being equal to God, the ultimate God.
Yeah.
I think most Westerners have heard about the Bhagavad Gita, which is one of the core books of Hinduism.
Yes.
And it's effectively a life manual in terms of helping with your everyday life and your everyday life problems and your own psychology and your spiritual growth.
Yeah.
But the Bhagavad Gita was actually recited by Krishna to one of the key warriors in the war, Arjun, right before the war, because Arjun was in a moral dilemma about right versus more right or wrong versus more wrong. As kids, when we're taught about Krishna's whole life, he was born in prison.
Yes.
His uncle from his mother's side wanted to kill him because there was a prophecy that the uncle would have been killed by the mother's 8th child.
Yes.
So the child that's born is effectively, I don't like using these words, but made to escape out of that jail right after birth, placed in a village or a town that was a little far away, Vrindavan,
Yes.
was raised as a child and youth in Vrindavan,
Correct.
goes, kills Kans,
Yes.
which is his uncle,
Yes.
and then eventually becomes the king of...
Well, he actually could have become a king at that point, but remember, Kamsa, his uncle, maternal uncle, has dethroned his father, like Shurasena.
What was the kingdom's name?
Mathura.
Mathura.
That Mathura area, okay? Madhupuri, Madhu's kingdom, okay? So, in fact, what Krishna does, he reinstates that Shurasena on the kingdom, and eventually, actually, Krishna moves from that central India area, North Indian area, to west coast of India, Dwarka, and he reestablishes a kingdom there, that is the Dwaravati. Again, that's not something totally new. That was his ancestral property in some ways. His kingdom was a very glorious kingdom, very prosperous kingdom.
Got it. So this is the legend of Shri Krishna in terms of the storyline of his life.
Correct.
Now, I believe once there's stability within his own life, there's actually a major lack of stability in all of Asia. And the capital of Asia at that point was within the Indian subcontinent, a city called Hastinapur, which is where these two warring clans of cousins were born and raised.
Right.
Now, think of it as good versus bad. The good clan of cousins, which are the Pandavas, are related to Krishna. They're also Krishna's cousins, but from their mother's side.
Correct.
So from their father's side, they're warring with the other clan, but from the mother's side, they're cousins with Shri Krishna.
Correct.
Now I'll let you continue, sir, because at age 33, so the Pandavas have had their own stories. Krishna Bhagwan has killed his uncle, re-established his kingdom. He has his own story.
Yeah. He has children by then.
He has children by then.
Yeah, and even a grandkid.
Okay. It's 33.
Yeah.
Wow. I think this is enough context.
Yes.
Sorry, I'm interrupting. I just had to set this context. Now it's completely over to you.
Yeah. Okay. So back to Krishna. So Krishna is a very key character. He played a important role, but still the Mahabharata is not about Krishna per se. Mahabharata is about the Kuru clan, the Kauravas, the
cousins who are at war.
Cousins, and therefore the other two books were written. The contribution of Krishna, and we'll come to that, why he's called Krishnastu Bhagwan Swayam. Like that's what Bhagavad Puran says. Like if you go to Bhagavad Puran has 12 skanda, like cantos. And I think comes in the first canto, like Krishnastu Bhagwan Swayam. Also, just because we talked about the avatar, let me quickly mention something. Depending on which place in the Indian literature, and the whole Hinduism is not a dharma of a book, it's actually a library, like, so depending on which book you're looking at, so somewhere we have those 10 avatars of Vishnu, but if you go to Bhagavad Puran and look at the avatars, you actually find there are, I forgot the exact number, 18 or 20 different avatars, and they have a very different sequence than the typical Matsya, Kurma, Varaha, Nrsimha, Vaman that we are used to. And this is very important that people understand it. It's a very soft, flexible concept, even of the avatara. In fact, in reality, Rigveda goes and telling that avatar, that supreme personality, whatever it is, that Brahma, its avatar is taking place every second. Unless there is avatar, it will not sustain. The universe will not sustain. But then why we talk of only few like Ram and Krishna and Narasimha and Parshuram as avatar? Just as a metaphor, it will be useful. Let's say the sacred river Ganga. It starts at Gangotri and goes all the way to the Bay of Bengal. Ganga is considered pure, like everywhere. It's very auspicious and holy and all of that. But along the whole flow of Ganga, there are some special places like Haridwar, Rishikesh and Varanasi and Prayagraj, which are more special. So the entire Ganga is special. Similarly, the avatar of Bhagwan are taking place all the time. But just like this specific destination, some of these are more special, like Ram and Krishna. And therefore, that's what we discuss.
Gotcha. Again, to dial back the context a bit, Vishnu is one of the key gods of Hinduism. So we believe that there's a creator, a sustainer, and a destroyer.
Yeah.
The creator is Brahma Bhagwan. The sustainer is Vishnu and the destroyer is Shiva.
Correct.
So the sustainer keeps taking part in world affairs to just restore balance and sustain humanity.
Yes.
Now, what we are told as kids is that Vishnu had 10 key avatars. And if you actually get into the stories and the study of those avatars, you realize it's an essay on evolution as well. His first avatar was in the form of a fish. The second one was in the form of a turtle.
Right.
And then it goes up into, I think, okay, let's actually go through it.
Yeah.
A fish,
Yeah.
a turtle,
Matsya Kurma, Varaha,
a boar,
yeah, Nrsimha, like a
Yeah.
lion face, right?
like
Or,
a half lion, half man.
Then Vaman, which is a dwarf human being. Think of it like that. Parshuram, Ram, Krishna. And then now you will see some variations too, like Bhagwan Buddha, like a Gautam Buddha is considered in one certain list. Another list, Balaram is considered as one, and so on. And then Kalki, which is yet to come.
I think at least this section of Krishna's life up till the war, we should cover from a bit of real history perspective. Maybe, perhaps, going back to that celestial and terrestrial evidence.
Perfect. So what I will call this, like think of biography. One is like a historical biography, let's call it, for lack of better word. The another one is the intellectual biography. So let's cover the historical biography. Okay. And so where do I want to start? I want to start with Krishna Nirvan, when he passed away. Okay. That year, Mahabharata text tells us 36 years after the Mahabharata war. So Mahabharata war is 55-61 BCE, and that's a good segue for the previous two episodes also. So 55-61 BCE and 36 years after that is 55-25 BCE. This is the year when Krishna's Dwarka was flooded and destroyed by sea rising waters. Okay. And same time Krishna passed away. So we know when he passed away, 55-25 BC. We know going backwards 36 years, he was there, very active and kicking during the Mahabharata war. We know all his participation. Now the question comes, how do we put together his biography? What other sheet anchor we have? Okay. And that was a struggle for me for a very long time, because in the rest of the entire Mahabharata, there is no specific evidence or a sheet anchor that will allow us to put together the life of Krishna together. So when I ran out of all the evidence as it relates to Krishna's biography, I went to the extended Grantha that Vyasadeva has written, namely Harivamsha, which is a Khila Parva, which means appendix to Mahabharata, and Bhagavad Puran. So we go to Harivamsha. And the scene is just before Krishna killed Kamsa. And Andaka, who is one of the minister of Kamsa, is warning Kamsa. Kamsa is behaving in a different way. You described it beautifully. He had killed previous six siblings of Krishna. So he's saying, you are not behaving properly. As a king, you should not be doing this. Okay, Raja Kalasya Karanam, by your activities, you are bringing very bad luck to our kingdom. And I am seeing many portents, many signs. They are not good for you. And he shows the signs. And as a part of it, he gives like 4 or 5 celestial references. But I have pulled this specifically for a reason. Because what I'm showing you there, even right down to that date there, 22nd March 5622, okay? Ketuna dhuma ketostu nakshatrani trayodasha bharanyadini bhinnani nanu yanti nishakaram. It's such a simple, actually, even, everyone here, actually, if we just spend little bit time, you will understand. Let's do this. Yeah? Okay, Ketu. Ketu means flag. Okay, the Ketu is a Rahu Ketu is a planet is there.
Yeah.
But Ketu in general means flag. Dhuma Ketu, if you think of a Dhuma Ketu, the comet, how does it look? Imagine you putting a vertical stick next to the bright spot of Dhuma Ketu. It would look like our flag that we see on the top of a mandir, temple, right? Dhuma Ketu. It is a flag, smoky flag. That's what the literal translation is.
Wow.
That's what it is, right? So, Ketuna Dhuma Ketustu, there is a comet up in the sky. And what does it say? Nakshatrani Trayodasha. It has spread so far, 13 nakshatras in the sky. Like you see those white color that is there, right? That is the comet. And this is a astronomy simulation using Voyager 4.5. Think of this as I'm an old timer, like think of this as now we will call it Tesla, for example, but think of this as a Cadillac, the old days, we'll say the Cadillac of the cars. So this software is like the most sophisticated software in astronomy you can have.
What's the name?
Voyager 4.5, made by Karina Soft.
So you can simulate how the sky looked at any date in history.
Exactly.
Damn.
That's what it is, okay? And the event that I'm showing you, this has not happened since, especially when you put additional evidence in the context. It has not happened for 10,000 years before this date. It is that rare event. Comets comes all the time, but now let's look at the description. Usually when the comet comes, we see, say, Halley's comet, comes every 75, 77 years, and it's like a big deal. But when it came in 86, which was the last time, many people could not even see with the naked eyes. And still it's like a big deal. Okay. But here, forget about, you don't need a binocular. It is saying it is covering the 13 nakshatra. And just to give you a significance of those 13 nakshatra, there are total of, do you remember, not a test, total of how many nakshatras? Anyone? 27. Now, if there are total of 27 nakshatra, what is the significance of 13 nakshatra? Exactly half of that, which means in a common sense, anytime about half the sky is visible, the remaining sky is below. Right? In the sky, we are going to see a space of about 13 nakshatras.
Got it.
It is saying that comet is so bright and so spread out, it has practically covered the entire visible sky. That's very important. Very rare thing this will happen. And it just doesn't stop there. It says Bharanyadini Bhinnani. Bharani is one of the 27 nakshatra. It starts from Bharani. Now, I don't know if you can read it. See the bright spot there to the left, and there is one arrow there. It's showing that one particular, there. Okay,
Gotcha.
And just below that, if you see the nakshatra, that's a Bharani. Next to that, to the right is a Ashwini, which is my wife's name. Okay, so Bharani, right from Bharani, it is covering all 13 nakshatras, which is entire visible sky. And what is it doing? Because of that, it says Nano Yanti Nishakaram. Nishakaram is a moon. And you see the moon there, of course, it doesn't have to be there. But the point is, moon is going to go from right to the left, from the south, west to the east. It says it is so bright, and moon goes as if following the path of nakshatras. It is so bright that moon has lost its path. Moon cannot see its path. It's such a beautiful, very practical, astronomically accurate, but also poetic description. So it is saying this is what is happening. And this is such a rare instance. It has not happened since, and it has not happened in the last 20,000 years. So combine with this, go to the next one. see, this happens all the time. Every 88 days, this will happen. But the fact is, if somebody, let's say, goes, another individual researcher, and I can tell you, he's not going to find an instance with Bharani, starting from Bharani, 13 nakshatras, it won't happen. But suppose he finds it. Now, he or she also has to show exactly at that time, Budhena Paschima Sandhya Vyapta Ghorena Tejasa. When sun set, after that, Mercury could be seen on the western horizon. Okay. Now, this one, it says, Esha Ghoro Grahaswatin Ullikhanke Gabastibi, which is to say, the nakshatra Swati is been afflicted by another bad planet, Ghora planet. So we don't see it. Where you see I have made a circle, that is where the Ketu is. Now this is the Ketu as in Rahu and Ketu, the node of the moon. Okay. So this one also must be satisfied. It doesn't have to be Ketu, by the way. It could have been Mars or could have been Saturn, like some Ghora planet. Go next one. Okay. Then there was a total solar eclipse. It says Grasta Swarabhanuna Suryo Diva Naktam Jayata. Right during the daytime, right, sun is up in the sky, but it became as if there is a night because it's a total eclipse.
All this is in Harivamsha Vishnu Parva 23.
23 chapter.
So all the astronomical events
Yes.
that are mentioned here are in that one single chapter.
Yeah, and next to each other, 3-4 shlokas.
And that minister is saying that all this has happened back to back.
Yeah, it's happening almost the same time, meaning maybe within 15 days or something like this.
Gotcha.
And it's not good for you, Kamsa.
Got it.
Please change your behavior. Be nice. And Kamsa does not listen. Okay, go to the next one. Vakram, remember this when we eventually, whenever that is, we go to the Mahabharata astronomy evidence. Okay, Vakram Angarakesh Chakre Vyaharanti Kharadvija. Again, a very poetic one. The Angarak, which is Mars, is going on a chariot, okay, on a cart of 2 donkeys. Okay, so now this Mars is basically Vakram, which is oblique crossing. You see that vertical sort of a green yellow line there on the left?
Yeah.
That is the path of the sun. Anytime it crosses, any planet crosses, it's called a Vakra motion in Mahabharata, but also Harivamsha. It's that consistent. Mahabharata has 3 pieces of evidence. Here we have one. That Vakra means exactly the same, the way it is shown in Mahabharata, matching for 5561 BC, here for 5622 BC. So it is on the it's again, of course, in the sky, some imagination there, just like we imagine like a bear up in the sky. So he's on the cart of 2 donkeys. The 2 donkeys are the 2 stars of Punarvasu Nakshatra. Okay, go next. We actually looked at this, sun. So these 4, 5 together, but especially the first one is the most important. Okay, so Ketuna Dhuma Ketostu Nakshatrani Trayodasha. Okay, and Bharane Adini Bhinnani Nanu Yanti Nishakram. That one reference, even if we just had that one reference, bingo, 5622 BC and no other. Now, what does it tell you? This is the time when Krishna killed Kamsa. Now the question comes to put together the historical biography of Krishna. How old was he? Because we know when he passed away, 5525 BC. But how old was Krishna in 5622 BC? Now this is interesting. I could not find the answer in Mahabharata. I could not find the answer in Harivamsha. So what do? I go to Bhagavad Puran. Okay. If you go next, just pull there. So just note that number 5622 plus 11. I'm going back and making it 5633 BC. We will see why. Go next. I wanted to know how old was Krishna when he killed Kamsa. And of course, in our social knowledge system, there are all kinds of answers, but these are people's guesses. But this is something that is documented almost that long ago. See that the verse there, it is basically saying, you can read the translation if you want.
Thereafter, he was brought to the cow pastures of his foster father Nand, where he, out of fear for Kams, together with Baldev, was kept for 11 years like one covers a flame.
So, which means he was 11 years old when he killed Kamsa. Now let's do the math. Go to the next one. Okay. So now 56. So 5622 plus 11 is 5633. Now we know as a Indian thing, it was the month of Shravan and it was a Vadya Ashtami. So that we can find out for that year. So that comes to 27-28 June 5633 BCE. Okay, so that's when Krishna was born. Now, something interesting. Now, this is how we validate things, one thing to another. Now, some terrestrial evidence. This is celestial. This is, so Krishna is born there. Now, what story, you do remember the story, like when Krishna was born, you said it, like he's born in a prison, and then Vasudev, his father, took him to another small village. He's crossing Yamuna, rain is coming, Yamuna's water is going up, and finally, the typical story we would hear, it comes in Bhagavad Puran, that Krishna's feet touches the water and the water recedes and Vasudev could cross over. Okay? Now, what is the problem with that? If you take the month of Shravan, in the 6th millennium BCE, there is no rain. It is like, think of in our times, the month of April or month of May. There is no rain. Okay, definitely there is no rain in Mathura. So what is happening? Where is that heavy rain coming from? And our monsoon that we are talking about is extremely stable for last 30,000 years. We have the geographical climatology data for that.
Of the subcontinent.
Of the subcontinent. So we are so confident of this. This is how the interpolations happens. Things get added because the person who is sitting and writing, in his time, he looks at when the rain starts. And in his time, there was a rain in the Shravan month. So he said, well, there must be something. And so he made up a story, frankly. But fortunately, in the Harivamsha, we have an original story preserved. If you can go next. This is from Harivamsha. But do you know what it is saying? Again, the same date. Now, month of Shravan, look at the position of the sun, that red, the orange ball. That is in the Grishma, meaning summer season, just the beginning of a summer season. And exactly opposite, if you look at it, you'll see the nakshatra Shravan there in that rectangle. So moon is near Shravan nakshatra, that is a month of a Shravan. Now, see, this is telling us it was just after the spring and an early part of a summer season. There is no rain whatsoever. Beautiful. You find wonderful descriptions matching that in a Harivamsha. When Vasudev is taking Krishna and going to Vrindavan, actually, if you look at geographically, and maybe we will add the geographical map, what you will see is from Mathura to Vrindavan, you don't have to cross Yamuna. See? Today we can see that from Mathura to Vrindavan, I don't know if anyone of you have gone there, you don't have to cross Yamuna. You just go from one side and just straight away go. That's what this particular description is. It says Vasudev simply walked along the bank of Yamuna and went to Vrindavan, but something more. As he was walking, what he could see is that the branches of a trees were cut and they were piled up along the borders of the villages, which is what? For the agriculture purposes, they burn those pieces of land and then they sow the seeds and so on. In Konkan, it's very common.
Slash and burn.
Yeah, slash and burn, right? One more thing. As Vasudev is walking, his feet are, he's stomping on dry cow dung. Now, if it's heavy raining, there would be no dry cow dung. That is that Karisha Kirna Vasudam. That is that dry cow dung. So even to that nitty-gritty detail, you find terrestrial evidence matching with what Celestial told us. Okay. Basically, just go next. I don't know what we have there. So yeah, and this is basically completes our historical biography. Now, this is something very fascinating, extremely fascinating. So I did this. Now do the math. 5633 BCE is when Krishna is born. Based on what? Mahabharata evidence, Dwarka evidence, Harivamsha evidence, Bhagavad Puran evidence. That's where he's born. And when did he pass away? 5525. 5633 minus 5525 is 108. 108 years. Now comes the fascinating part. When I did this and when I published this work through my lectures and whatnot, somebody from Udupi, from the Udupi Matha, the Madhvacharya, which is from where the Hare Krishna line comes afterwards through Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Some person, I forgot his name, and now he's in Australia. He wrote to me saying, Nileshji, do you know that Madhvacharya in his grantha that he wrote, Mahabharat Tatparya Nirnay, he has written a verse saying that Krishna lived for 107 years. My calculation is 107, 108. Now, 107, 108 can be easily adjusted, explained, He says 107. I said, fascinating. Because when I did this, all other 100 plus Mahabharata researchers, either they have not bothered to find out how long Krishna lived, or they have come up with all kinds of different numbers, 125, 116, 101, 83, 82, all kinds of things. And none of these actually explain even the Mahabharata evidence. But I was so shocked, pleasantly shocked, I should say. And that is this verse from Madhvacharya. See, this is from Sri Mahabharat Tatparya Nirnay. Again, you can see the chapter 32, verse 8, 9. Just the last word is enough if we read that. Saptamabdam Shatottaram. So, Upadisham Param Jnanam Uddhavayamu Pashramam. Then Krishna gave advice to Uddhava, that is Uddhav Gita. Bhagavad Gita we can call Arjun Gita if we like, because Krishna told Arjun. Now this one he gave also Upadesh to Uddhav, that is Uddhav Gita, that comes in Bhagavad Puran. And then he went, Uddhav went on a pilgrimage, and then Krishna completed his avatar. And how long he lived? Saptamabdam Shatottaram. He lived for 107 years. Do that math, 5633 BC, 5525 BC, 108 years. Quick point I want to mention and we can close this. Just like in science, we say you cannot just read somewhere or somebody just does an experiment and just jumps and puts a theory. No, that's not how it works. We have a certain problem. To solve that problem, we propose a theory. That theory tells us what evidence to look for. Either we look for an evidence in nature or we create experiments, that's pratyaksha. And then we draw inference. Sir Karl Popper's language, science or logic of scientific method is a triangulation of explanation, prediction, testing in the context of a theory, in the context of background knowledge. So it's a triangulation. Krishna giving that in that Uddhav Gita says triangulation is not enough. He says quadrangulation is required. And he says Shruti, Pratyaksha, Maitiyam, Anumanam, Chatushtayam. But some other type of validation is done in an Indian system. That just I want to bring it to your attention. And it's there in Bhagavad Gita also, multiple illustration. But here, so what did I do? I just went on my own scientific path, looked at Mahabharata, okay, then Harivansha, Bhagavad Puran, and came with that 107 or 108 years. That is Atma Pratiti. This is my own efforts, my own understanding to come at that number. Now, someone like a great Acharya like Madhvacharya, I don't know how he came to that number, but basically not how I came to that number. So he is coming, so that is a apta pratiti, someone that you can trust, and that person is giving a number that happens to match. Okay, and Shastra pratiti, because I did not pull out of thin air. I pulled it based on the Mahabharata, that is a Shastra, Harivansha, that is a Shastra, and Bhagavad Puran, that is a Shastra, but not just the statements from there. Actually, those statements were validated using science. In that sense, also Shastra pratiti. So it's a apta pratiti, Atma pratiti, Apta pratiti, Madhvacharya, and Shastra pratiti. And you will see that time and time again into Krishna's advice to everyone.
Okay. I have a very random question.
Please.
Attached. So effectively, one of the things I gained out of this whole segment is that Shri Krishna was born right after the spring.
In the summer season,
in the
what
summer.
we call Grishma Rutu. Yeah.
I wonder why Janmashtami is then celebrated in like September.
That's a great question because it's very easy to answer. Remember last time we talked about the precession of the Earth's axis, a slow
my
motion of
God.
26,000 years.
Okay.
So with that, so Margashirsha, which is when the Mahabharata war took place, that happened that time, 7,500 years ago, at the beginning of a Sharat season. But today, Margashirsha occurs at the end of Hemanta Rutu. Like there is a shift of 4 months. So every 2,000 years, there is a shift of 1 month with respect to the Rutu. Exactly same thing has happened. So today, you look at where Shravan is, it is almost at the end part of rainy season. Okay? Like a second month or third month, you can
You're
say.
saying that when you link up the Gregorian calendar with the Indian calendar, there is a slight shift that happens every year.
Forget Gregorian calendar. If say Gregorian calendar did not exist, okay? So Shravan month today comes in the rainy season, like Ashad is like a peak of rainy season, and after that Shravan. So right now, think of Shravan as the second month of rainy season, Varsha season. So from second month of Varsha season to first month of Varsha season. So today, right now it is there. So 2000 years, count 2000 years for that. Now the first month of Varsha season, count additional 2000. How many? 4,000 years. Now go backward to the second month of Grishma season. That's additional 2,000 years, 6,000. And go now to the first part of Grishma season. That's what we saw, additional 2,000 years. That is about 8,000 years ago. And exact number is 7,585. Bingo. Every time you are going to get this validation.
Coming back to the spine of this episode, which is Shri Krishna's life. 108-year time span.
Yes.
I believe he was supposed to be the same age as Arjun.
Same age as Arjun. So actually, very good. Yeah. Brilliant.
Right.
And so Arjun also lived almost 108 years. Yeah.
And the
right.
war then would have been fought when they were 70 something or 80 something.
71, 72, something like this.
Do you ever think of this? Like when we visualize the Mahabharata happening, you visualize a bunch of 30 somethings or 40 somethings at war. But it's actually 70 somethings at war.
Yes. And don't forget, Bhishma was 140 plus and he fought for the first 10 days and really gave a tough time to the Pandava side. 140 plus.
This is where the belief of a lot of non-Hindus breaks in, the stories of the Mahabharata.
Do you know what I will say? It's not actually the non-Hindus who have a trouble. It is the lazy Hindus who don't read things. Both Indian and outside, they have a problem. You talk to a Christian person or a Jewish person, the Old Testament, New Testament, they have no problem whatsoever. Do you know why? If you read Old Testaments, actually there are personalities whose ages are given into multiple 100 years. They have no problem.
Okay, moving on. Would you like to use the screen to show us anything else?
Yeah, as we talk about Krishna's greatness, or rather, there are many great individuals, but a unique aspect of Krishna. There is a statement, like if you have to summarize what Krishna does, in Sanskrit it goes something like this: Murares Tritiya Pantha. For example, you go and ask a binary question to him: should I do engineering or should I do medical? I'm just making it a fun, but he will say, well, do biomedical engineering. So it's not like he said, don't do engineering, don't do medicine. He suggested a third path, almost a combination of the two or something like this. So the unique thing about Krishna is Murares Tritiya Pantha. The path of Murari is a very unique and different path. The path not taken. And that you see time and time again. You can see this in Bhagavad Gita. Okay. There are 4 types of bhakta that Krishna describes. Artha, Jidnyasu, Artharthi, Jnani cha Bharatarshava. There are 4 types of bhakta. And then he says they're all great, grand. However, the person who synthesizes, remember that triangulation? He or she brings all 3 together. The Jnani is the most beloved of mine. Now, if you look at that first, say, y-axis, the Shraddha axis. See, the benefit of a Shraddha leads to lot of karma shakti. But karma can be of a different kind. So just look at the ends of the axis. The Shraddha can be tamasi and Shraddha can be satvik. This is 17th chapter. Trivida bhavati Shraddha Dainansa Swabhavaja Satviki Rajasi Chaiva Tamasi Chetitam Shunu. Now just a good example so people understand it. So Shraddha leads to karma shakti, leads to lot of work. But if it's a tamasi, that may lead to a person becoming terrorist. So he also creates like great things, great in the sense courageous things, but not the good ones, not the useful to the humanity. Now, if it's a sattvic shraddha, that person may be, somebody who comes up with a new invention or something like this in agriculture, whatnot, stuff like that. So it leads to a lot of karma shakti. So that is a artha bhakta. Okay, he's a more emotional, which accepts on a reverence and just go do something about it. And many people have done great things, like Amte and whatnot. So now that is a connection also. That's a karma, by the way. Look at that as a karma. Okay. Now this one here, the x-axis is the related to jnana, the buddhi,
knowledge.
Now Krishna see, this is now the Murares Tritiya Pantha. Nyaya Darshan says Sanshay is good. Sanshay is good, like asking a good question is important for the growth of knowledge. Krishna said that is good, but also person must have a Shraddha. So only that x-axis is not sufficient.
Right.
Shraddhavan labhate jnanam. Without Shraddha, you cannot get knowledge.
If your y-axis hasn't progressed much, that means you could be a terrorist who's very intelligent and you'd be at the end of that x-axis, right?
Yeah. He or she knows how to make the bomb.
Right. It takes intelligence to make a bomb and to figure strategy.
Yeah.
But if you're a good person
Yeah.
and you're intelligent,
Yeah.
then it's more favorable.
Yeah. So the good person will use the knowledge of a okay, to blast the things and make the tunnel
Right.
and cut the distance short. You see? So it's like changing that. So that Samshaya is otherwise considered good in Nyaya Darshana, but Krishna gave a different feeling. You know, for example, he says, Adnyasya ashraddha dhanasya samshayatma vinashyati. If you just have a samshaya of a mind, that is that corner there, the first corner, it will lead to destruction. Samshayatma vinashyati. But
Which corner?
that manasa, you see the first bottom left hand
okay.
corner, that is the bad one, like a vinasha, you know, where I have written vinasha.
That's nothing. Like,
It's not nothing. It's a shraddha is a tamasi. The person has a
Right.
samshaya, but it's a samshaya of a mind and not samshaya of a buddhi. The third axis, and this is by the way Bhagavad Gita, artha jidnyasu artharthi.
what is jinyasa?
Jidnyasu is a curious.
Oh, okay.
Okay, like the person is curious, but look at the difference. That axis of curiosity is going, you know, from the bottom left to the backwards. Okay, is a kutuhala, which is just a mere curiosity. You know, somebody says, hey, I want to know what was the height of Bhishma, and you say, okay, what are you going to do with it? No, nothing, I just want to know. Just pure kutuhal, just mere curiosity is useless, because the person is asking somebody else to do the thing. If you do yourself, great. But there is something more. The axis on the other side says saprayojana. Now this is Vachaspati Mishra commenting on the Bhagavad Gita, Shankaracharya's Bhagavad Gita commentary. He says basically anytime you have a samshaya, that's fine, but it should be sandigdha and saprayojana. Sandigdha means the samshaya is not like you are just asking something careless and casual. You have studied the whole Valmiki Ramayana or Mahabharata, and as a result of it, you have done your own work and still a doubt is remaining. That is sandigdha. And saprayojana, meaning if I answer that question or if you find the answer, what is the benefit to humanity? No, I just want to know how tall was Bhishma. It's not useful.
Research backed with purpose.
Research, purpose driven life, purpose driven research, purpose driven whatever you are doing. So now look at those axes at the up here, this side and going back. The top left right hand side corner is abhyuday. That leads to prosperity.
Ikigai.
Ikigai. We are
This
going
is
to come to Ikigai.
Indian Ikigai.
Yeah. I'm going to take you to Ikigai. Now see, this is the people's challenge. See, everybody wants mukti. Mukti is a rapture of living, by the way, in an Indian context. It's not mukti something, not something you wait until you die. Tukarama says, yachi dehi yachi dola, right here and now. Or there is another bhajan of Tukarama, just one line, mukta kasaya manave, bandhanachi nahi thave. We don't care for mukti. We don't know any bandhan. So what we want to become free from? So that is a mental state actually. Now look at the problem. People want mukti, the rapture of living, but they're not willing to do the tapasya that is required, the shuddhi. They want punya phala. You know, they want the ready outcome, but they're not willing to do the punya, meaning the tapasya, and they want shakti for a karma, but they're not willing to do bhakti. This is the challenge. And that what is Krishna is preaching in the entire Bhagavad Gita is basically this, taking from this bottom left hand corner to the top right hand corner
Of the cube.
Okay, and so you will see this everywhere when the four types of bhakta. So these are three bhaktas, but when you bring together, that is a fourth kind of bhakta, jnani, artha jidnyasu artharthi. So artha jidnyasu artharthi, the meaning, artharthi not in the sense of money, meaning, artha, meaning, purpose. That's why he wants the jnana trupti, you know. So combination of that is a jnani, that is that prosperous. Okay.
You mentioned something about Bhishma Pitama's height.
Yeah.
But generally, what is mentioned about the physical features of Shri Krishna or the Pandavas? I know it's a surface level question, but it is a curiosity that people have about this topic. Has anything about the physical appearance of these characters come up in your research?
Yes, and it is there in Mahabharata. For example, Bhima. Okay. So Bhima, let's take, this would be a subject by itself, but Bhima is very interesting. How is the Bhima that you know?
Really tall, really muscular.
Something else. Okay. Generally people think in a ordinary thinking, he is a vakrodar, as like a big tummy. That is not true in Mahabharata. Do you know what he is? He is a vrukodar. Vruka means fox or jackal. And the fox or jackal have their tummy gone inside. Like you do beer biceps, right? So 6-pack and something. Actually, he's like that. Vrukodar, in the ordinary practice, it became a Vakrodar. So I'm saying sometimes the mistakes like that happen. Another thing, what about his intellect that you have read or you have heard from this?
Nothing to mention.
Not worth mentioning, right?
Yeah.
Not true if somebody reads Mahabharata. In fact, it's so beautiful. Again, we are talking about Bhagwan Krishna. Bhima anticipates Bhagwan Krishna's advice like 6 months in advance. How's that? And you see these instances entire Mahabharata. For example, I will take Draupadi Vastraran as example. Okay, Draupadi Vastraran, not the whole detailed story, but okay, when that is happening and Dushasana brings Draupadi to the Rajya Sabha, and Karna and Duryodhana are saying, okay, pull her sari and so on and so forth. When that thing is happening, why did Dushasana stopped? Now, our story tells us, and there are few interpolated verses in Mahabharata. You know that story? That basically is when starts pulling, she says Krishna, Krishna, and what happened?
He allows the sari to be infinite.
Correct? Okay. There are 2 shlok of that intent, actually 2 lines, not even 2 shlok, given in Mahabharata. But I am saying in that sense, Draupadi Vasran did not happen. Now you would say, well, they are right because Krishna supplied the sari. I'm saying not because Krishna supplied the sari. But when Dushasan started doing it and Bhim just gets up and he says to Nakul or Sahadev, bring that fire and I want to burn the hands of Yudhishthir. And long story, Arjun says, no, what are you telling your elder brother and so on. And Bhima says, I'll bring it to Krishna and Bhima. Bhima says, I am going to kill these guys right here. And now other people say, and even our modern analyst says, Bhima didn't have a sense. How could he would have killed them? And does it make sense to kill them? Krishna says, if I was there, I would have killed them right there. Now, isn't that what Bhima was saying? And Bhima was very much capable. In fact, right in that sabha, you know what Bhishmacharya says? Bhishmacharya says, Bhima, calm down right now. Eventually, you are going to do it. Do you know what Madhvacharya says? So, Madhvacharya calls Krishna as a Bhagavate Vasudevaya Purushottamaya, but like that. And he calls Krishna Purushottam and he calls Bhima Narottam.
What is Narottam?
Greatest among the men. Right? And so Bhima is considered hero by Madhvacharya. Bhima is considered hero based on the Mahabharata evidence by one of my great influence, and I consider him like a guru, Dr. P.V. Vartak, Padmakar Vishnu Vartak. And my research shows very much that. So just that point, that Bhima, that typical thing that we think he doesn't use much of this part is not true at all. Actually, Bhima has anticipated this every time. Another one, I'll just give you an example. Krishna says, I would have killed them right there, or we should go and right now kill. And Yudhishthir comes in and says, no, 12 years and 13 years we have to wait. And Krishna says, all right. But do you know what Bhima does? After 1 year of this forest living goes away. Just like last time we talked about Ahoratra Samvatsara, sometime in a certain situation, a day can be considered like a year, or a year can be considered like a day. Here, Bhima says, in certain situations, a month can be considered like a year. And he uses a beautiful linguistic thing. Do you know what it is? Masa is a month. Just do the ulta. Sama is a year in Sanskrit. Masa is a month. Ulta Sama is a year. He says, hey, this can be done like this. We have already spent 13 months. That is equivalent to 13 years. Let's go and kill them. Which Krishna is also agreeing. And you can have many instances like this. So they are literally, this Narottama and Purushottama are really in a sync throughout the Mahabharata.
Because we're talking about Bhim, I want to talk a little bit about Ghatotkach.
Yeah.
His son, who was actually a key warrior in the Mahabharata as well.
Yeah.
And he was one of the big reasons that the Kaurava army started facing defeat.
Yes.
Like that's where the scales tilted a little bit with the introduction of Ghatotkach.
Actually huge, because his participation forced Karna to use one of the weapon that he has reserved exclusively for Arjun, and he had to use it on Ghatotkacha. Ghatotkacha got killed, and now no longer that weapon was available to Karna.
And the context for Ghatotkach is that Bhim had a son with a lady who was supposedly What's the English
Like
word?
a Rakshasi, you
Yeah,
mean?
like a demon?
We shouldn't use, no, we shouldn't use the English word. We should use Rakshasi. Rakshamiti Rakshasa. These are very powerful people. Demon looks like a very demonic in the sense of a bad person. There is nothing bad about them.
But I know that the backstory of this lady, it was Hidimba, right?
Hidimba.
Her brother,
Hidimba, yeah.
was a cannibal.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, were there cannibalistic tribes at that point?
We have it in our times. You know the story of Idi Amin in Uganda?
Yeah.
He used to cut human beings and put it in the refrigerator.
As recently as 400 years ago, there have been cannibalistic tribes.
Until Idi Amin is like less than 50 years, for example. Dongo tribe or the Dongo tribe in Africa. In their tradition, I don't know if they do that now. I don't know the update. But when some old person in the family goes away, they actually would, and forgive me if it's not Dongo, but some other tribe in Africa, they will cook that person's meat and actually gets distributed. Just like we have the some events after a person dies away, like 10 days and 13 days, something like this. It's like that person is living through us now.
Damn.
Yeah.
So, do you believe that Hidim and Hidimba were a part of a tribe like that?
They could be. So, I mean, if Hidim was eating, right? I mean, Hidim, there was another one, Bakasur.
Yeah.
You know,
It's all these Rakshasas which are mentioned along with Bhim's part of the story.
Yeah.
Bhim was known to slay these Rakshasas.
Yeah.
The actual overarching question is, what are Rakshasas?
Well, Rakshamiti Rakshasa, but they may be considered in the bad light for necessarily, possibly the habits like that. So, person is already a individual, right? But gets into a bad habit, let's say, including like eating other human beings. Right, so it's like that. Now, just because you mentioned Hidimba, how did she decide to marry Bhim? It's not like some statecraft plot. She was totally impressed with Bhima's being handsome. And even then, do you know what Bhima does? Now, I'll give you a comparison between Bhima and Arjuna, just a humorous and interesting comparison. Bhima, even when Hidimba asks to marry him and spend time with him, Bhima says, well, I have to ask my elder brother. Okay, Bhima does that, and Yudhishthir discusses that. Okay, you stay with her until she has a baby, and then Bhima says, "I will leave you after that." Is that acceptable? And that's what happens, Ghatotkacha and so on. On the other hand, Arjun, when he goes on his trip, okay, he's not waiting to get a permission from. I'm just giving as a humorous comparison. So Bhima is like absolutely on the niti, on the parakram. I mean, you pull any aspect, even. Draupadi says this many times. Draupadi in Ajnatavas, who does she go to? When Kichaka is attacking her, who does she go to? She knows who to go to. She goes to Bhim. And even, what is her prayer? She says, Bhima, there is a Mahabharata statement. He says, Bhima, please, in the next Janma, please consider becoming an elder brother. Let Yudhishthir not be the elder brother. That's why we are going through this torture. Now, this is not to put Yudhishthir down. I mean, this is her frustration that she's saying. But it also shows her confidence in Bhima. So you can go, even Krishna. Krishna, by the way, again, another big king, Jarasandha.
Yeah.
He's in the Patliputra. Now, let's talk a statecraft for a minute. We're talking Krishna's intellectual biography. How intelligently he thought about this. Do you know why Krishna came from? Now, this is my research. So, there is a reading between the lines too. Why Krishna came from Mathura to Dwarka? Any idea? It has to do with the prosperity. Yato abhyudaya nishreyasa siddhi sadharma. Dharma is that activity which brings prosperity and ultimate good. So, Mathura, that time, it's a global trade, by the way. From Mathura, think of the river passages. So Yamuna is meeting Ganga and going to Bay of Bengal. Okay, what is the problem? There is a toll naka in between, which is Patna, the kingdom of Jarasandha. And that is always a nuisance. Like it is at the whole trade from Mathura is at the mercy of a Jarasandha. And Jarasandha, do you know how many times he defeated Krishna, the Yadus? 17 times. That is there in Mahabharata. 17 times he defeated. Finally, Krishna decided this is not worth fighting. and he moved on into his ancestral land. I mean, for the whole Yadus and Hayayas and what that, which goes back to about 60,000 plus years, 30,000, 40,000, 50,000 years. We don't know exactly.
As in the Yadus have had their
Yeah.
ancestral land.
Let's start with Krishna's Dwarka location.
Sure.
That tilak like symbol, that you see, that's Somnath. Okay. From there, I have drawn an arrow in the ocean. Where that arrow ends, that is Krishna's Dwarka. This is a work of, this is my work, but also work of Graham Hancock and Glenn Milne, and they have shown right there. That particular was an island. Dwaravati is described as an island with multiple bridges to the land, and that got destroyed based on their work. Exactly 5525 BC that falls in. So now, but this land, the description is there. Krishna re-established Dwarka at the place which was known as a Kushasthali. Original name, okay? And what is the story of a Kushasthali? It comes in Srimad Bhagavatam. I'll not read the Sanskrit just to manage time. But Vaivashvata Manu, okay? Not to confuse with Swayambhu Manu. That was before Vaivashvat. The Vaivashvat Manu had a son, had multiple sons. Okay, one of them was a Sharyati. Now he had many sons like these Uttanabahi, Anartha.
Who? Okay, this is the original Manu.
Not even original Manu. There was a Swayambhu Manu before Vaishya.
Go on. You're saying this is from 60,000 BC?
This one possibly 30,000. About 30,000. Okay, 30,000. Swayambhu Manu will go to 60,000, 70,000 years in the past. Okay. So Vaivashvata Manu, about 30,000 years you can say approximately. His son Sharyati, he had 3 sons, Uttanabahi, Anartha and Bhurishena. Anartha had a son Revata. And the reason I'm stopping there is, it's the Revata who established Kushasthali. And that's why in Gujarat we have a Revatak mountain. For example, even right now, there is a Revatak mountain after him. Okay. So how old is it? Well, we don't know exactly. But archaeology evidence, again, everyone wants to say archaeology evidence. They have found, this is a few years ago and many papers are there, of certain objects that were dated, like construction objects, whatever they found, they were dated, and they were dated to about 30,000 years. So based on that, I'm saying possibly 30,000. There is some speculation, some conjecture. So that is the place which already existed as a Kushasthali, well established, but over a period of time, remember, the seawater is coming up and some getting destroyed. Krishna re-established it. And that is Dwarka.
At another place.
Almost in that area, meaning Gujarat, in Gujarat area.
Got it. So in the same map where you've highlighted the word Dwarka, that is where current Krishna Mandir is, what we consider Dwarka today. Got it.
That Dwarka has nothing to do with Krishna's Dwarka.
So Krishna's Dwarka is where that orange arrow ends.
Perfect. Yeah.
But then where did he re-establish it? Nearby.
No, he established there, and that was destroyed in 5525 BC. Therefore, where the arrow begins, okay, not where it ends, where it begins, there is a place called Mula Dwarka. See, this is in the memory of the original Dwarka. But now we have to show somewhere, it better be on a land. You can't say on a water where it is, So anyways, that's that.
So when the Marcos of the Indian military are exploring Dwarka, that's the spot they're exploring?
They should. They ought to. I don't know where they are exploring. For example, when S.R. Rao did it, do you know where S.R. Rao did that?
No.
Near that, up, that rectangle Dwarka.
Okay.
And guess what? Because this is a area of an Indian civilization for 30,000 plus years, you are going to find something everywhere. But whatever objects he found, in fact, he found objects from 200 BC and he just jumped on. Now, S.R. Rao is no longer with us, but he jumped on and he just said, yeah, I found Krishna's Dwarka. No. And fortunately, I was in a Vishaka, after we did those episodes, I was in Vishakhapattanam for a symposium on Indian antiquity, Bharatiya antiquity. I presented on Ramayana and Mahabharata. And do you know the name Dr. David Frawley? Vamadev Shastri.
Yeah.
Vamadev Shastri was also there, and I brought up this issue of sincere but factually incorrect research of Professor S.R. Rao, but also Professor B.B. Lal. And to my pleasant surprise, in his talk, Dr. David Frawley, who knew both of them, both of them are not there, he said that these both greats, they did a great work, wrong conclusions, they had admitted, they had taken back their statements that was Krishna's Dwarka. But the knowledge has not been disseminated into the common public. So people are still thinking S.R. Rao's Dwarka and B.B. Lal's Hastinapur.
It's 2024 AD right now.
Yes.
That's 7,000 years ago.
Yes.
It sank roughly.
Yes.
Whatever, 6,500.
Right. So you must know where to look for.
But what did we find after 6,500 years?
Don't know. Pramana Tashyartha Pratipatte. Only we can talk of the evidence we have found. When we find new evidence, we will discuss that,
I mean, I'm assuming even metal erodes under the water.
What roads?
Metal,
Huh.
even metal must be eroding.
If it's a iron, it rusts and goes away. Forget water. Even on the land, it rusts and goes away. But copper and others, they survive.
Underwater as well?
I don't know. But on the ground, definitely they survive. It creates that copper sulfate type of, morchu
Right.
layer and
Natural protection.
Huh. And it doesn't rust, per se, like iron. Yeah. So we don't know what we'll find. So why he moved from Mathura to Dwarka,
Right.
right? Because of the problem with Jarasandha. So finally he said, let me come to Dwarka. Now what is the benefit? See, before from Yamuna and Saraswati was drying. That was the challenge. I mean, Saraswati was still navigable, but not completely. That's why he has to use Yamuna. But now with the Dwarka, he can go from anywhere uninterrupted. And therefore, Dwarka was an extremely prosperous place. Again, Krishna, we talked about not just the philosophy, but he's living it. Vaisheshika Sutra, the definition is Yato Abhyudaya Nishreyasa Siddhi Sadharma. Dharma is that activity which leads to prosperity and ultimate good. Krishna showed it with his example. Okay, Krishna showed it with his example. He chose to go away from it. He left Mathura, which is his land, which is not worth the trouble, which many other people were not willing to do. But Krishna did it. That's one unique thing.
What was left back in Mathura?
So let's see. What happened? They had a presence, but not presence where they will fight every day with Jarasandha. After Krishna's Dwarka was gone, now I may not remember the right names, but Krishna's one of the grandson. So he was taken by Arjun and many of the Yadus, surviving Yadu ladies, and he took them back to Hastinapur and Indraprastha. Then on, if I'm saying it correctly, on Indraprastha, on Hastinapur, Parikshit was installed as a king. And on the Indraprastha, I think the great grandson of Krishna was established there with Mathura also. I mean, Delhi and Mathura close. So they continued because of that. And by that time, Jarasandha was killed. You know who killed Jarasandha, by the way? Krishna could not defeat Jarasandha in 17 wars. Okay, even Balaram couldn't do it. Krishna took help of Bhima. The whole story is there in Mahabharata, that Bhim Arjun.
He tears the body.
Yeah.
Yeah. Tears the body and throws it in two separate directions.
Their duel goes on for 13-14 days and stuff like that. But Krishna has a confidence in Bhima can do it. Now Krishna himself was a wrestler. Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kamsa Chanura Mardanam. Krishna has killed Chanur, who is a wrestler. But when it comes to Jarasandha, Krishna says, Bhima, you do it. And not Arjun, you do it. Right? So Krishna also knew what Bhima was capable of.
Okay. What is kind of the concluding aspect that you would like to put forward for the audiences when it comes to Shri Krishna? Because we have deviated, we've gone to all sorts of places related to the Mahabharata.
Perfect.
But this is years of study you've dedicated.
The first point I want people to take away is that Krishna was a real person in the flesh and a bone who lived on this land, on this earth 7,500 years ago. He had details like any one of us has, like lived for 107 years, 108 years and so on. Did great things. Looking at his intellectual biography, he was an exceptional individual. Therefore, he's called a Yuga Purush. In a one line, we can say Murares Tritiya Pantha. He was a revolutionary in everything that he did. Okay. The third part, the avatarhood, we briefly talked about it. But again, avatar is any one of us can be avatar. We will not know in our times. It's in retrospect. So if you want to become avatar, do some great things. Okay, that's the message there. But you can be avatar. And the last point I want to conclude is Krishna. There is this Krishnashtaka. Okay, 8 shloka that says Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kamsa Chanura Mardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagat Gurum. Why is a Jagat Guru? Now there are many. Shankaracharya also we call Jagat Guru. From a Sanskrit point of view, Jagat Guru, if you look at the word, it's a Shashti Tatpurush Samas, meaning the Guru of the world. That's a Shashti Tatpurush. Okay, many people from the world, I mean, he has become like a guru to the world. Is it true? Answer is yes. Bhagavad Gita, everyone is studying it around the world, not limited to India. If anyone is studying less, that is more in the India than outside. People are studying every time. So yes, he is the guru of the world. But in Sanskrit, the beauty of a Sanskrit or Sanskrit grammar, and therefore all Indian languages, instead of Shashti Tatpurush, if you take that as a something called Bahuvrihi, we will not go into the details of it, which is to say, Jagat Guru means the person who takes the world as his guru. And that Krishna has done it very well. For example, of course, the Matru Deva Bhava, Pitru Deva Bhava, but then after Krishna killed Kamsa, he was just randomly roaming through Mathura and not doing anything. And Vasudeva was worried. Then he sent to Sandipani. So Sandipani is one of his first guru. Chandogya Upanishad talks about Ghora Angirasa. We don't have the other details. But Ghora Angirasa was another guru of a Krishna, Devaki Nandana Krishna. Okay. But just like I said, many gurus, Krishna is learning from everyone. In fact, do you know, this is something very fascinating for very orthodox Vaishnavas sometime who don't bother to read Mahabharata. Krishna has taken a Shaivi Diksha. His first son out of Rukmini says, okay, before we go for a son, go and do bhakti. Go and do tapasya. He goes and does the tapasya of a Shiva. And Krishna is telling this story in Mahabharata. That is precisely the reason. Do you know that Mahabharata has, just like Vishnu Sahasranam Mahabharata is there in Mahabharata. Do you know that there is a Shiva Sahasranam in Mahabharata? In fact, twice. And Vishnu Sahasranam was recited by Bhishmacharya to Yudhishthira and everyone when he was on the bed of arrows. But do you know that Shiva Sahasranam was recited by Krishna to Yudhishthira and Bhishma again when Bhishma is lying on the bed of arrows? When Yudhishthira asked Bhishma, can you please tell me the glory of Shiva? Of course, very humbly, Bhishma says, I am not qualified. Fortunately, there is somebody, which is Krishna, a qualified person here to talk of the glory of Shiva. And that's where Krishna refers to he taking Diksha from a Shiva. Okay, so he has taken Diksha from many, and now therefore he is a guru. Quickly, I will conclude on the two Shishya he had, great Shishya. One is Arjun and one is Uddhava. But look at their psyche. We all are different. We are a different permutation combination of Sattva, Raja, Tama, plus our past life, whatever we bring, the piety that we bring, the bank balance, a karmic bank balance. So what happens is we have a different tendencies. Very interesting. Krishna and Arjun spend a lot of time together. Okay, but very interesting. As soon as Krishna was gone, 55-25 BC, and very soon Arjun also gone. But Krishna has left a message for Arjun. When I am gone, please take the residents of Dwarka and take them to safe place, namely therefore Indraprastha and Hastinapur. Arjun was extremely powerful, but as soon as he came to know of the news of Krishna's passing away, he lost his strength. If you know the story, he is taking the Yadustriya, Krishna's ladies, and taking to Hastinapur, and Abhirs in between defeated Arjuna. Arjuna was practically never defeated. As soon as Krishna is gone, he almost lost his strength. Exactly opposite is the story of Uddhava. Just that last statement of Madhvacharya we saw. After Krishna gave Updesh to Uddhava, and he said, please go on a pilgrimage. Now Uddhava left on pilgrimage, and in few days he heard of Krishna's passing away. Now Uddhav was so settled with Krishna's advice, he did not even flinch. He just had a light smile on his face. He could sense Krishna's presence with him because he has already been advised, which Arjuna couldn't. Actually, Arjuna needed to be taught Bhagavad Gita second time. That is the Anugita. When Krishna leaves from Hastinapur, Indraprastha, Arjuna says, in that busy stuff of the war, you told me Bhagavad Gita, I forgot. Can you tell me again? And something very interesting. Krishna says, in a modern language, he says, look, that time, a drastic issue and drastic measures I had to take, and I told you this. Even I cannot repeat that performance. How beautiful, how humble. Krishna says, I cannot repeat it. Okay, I was in the zone. Now I'm no longer in the zone. But since you have asked, I will tell you something, and that is called Anugita. So Krishna has the same person, has two different disciples, but their response to Krishna's same advice is very different. So that is something I want people to understand also. And that's all I have to say.
Isn't there a story like the whole Yadav clan killed each other?
Correct.
Because of Gandhari's curse.
Gandhari's curse, again, I will say as a Phala Hetu. Because remember, don't forget that some of the additions, now these additions are not made over long time, but there are additions made over next 100 years to Mahabharata. So when something like that happens, like even the Krishna's clan, the Bhagwan and his clan is going away, people are trying to understand phala hetu, trying to try to understand what could have happened. And Krishna, they said, they attributed to Krishna saying it, attributed to Gandhari's curse and so on. But from a pragmatic point of view, at least I understand it this way, just like we talked about the prosperity followed by coming down the cycle, Dwarka was so prosperous, and so they were all spoiled. I mean, if you read the descriptions, they were drinking and they were just dancing, and actually extremely weird stuff was done if you read those descriptions. So Krishna saw that, it better get destroyed. I mean, he had that intellect to say, okay, my clan, but it better go away and let the new thing flourish.
Is there anything said about the descendants of the Pandavas?
Okay, well, descendants of Pandavas, they were there. Bhagavad Puran talks about it. After the Pandava Vansha came to a close, okay, or from Parikshit, they say, Skanda Puran says there were 3,310 years between Parikshit, and we don't know exactly which Parikshit, but let's assume that Parikshit. From there, 3,310 years after was a time of Chanakya. Okay, so we can, based on that, we can calculate the time of Chanakya. The reason I'm saying this is, we say, oh, we know the time of Chanakya. Actually, we don't. In the modern times, these are all speculations, like 300 BC, 400 BC, 1300 BC, 1600 BC.
I mean, what's assumed is he was the minister for Chandragupta Maurya.
That is correct, because that description comes. So that combination is there. But about the timing, the range for Chanakya and therefore Chandragupta Maurya, the range is from 300 BC to 2300 BC.
Oh, there's no proof that...
There is no decisive proof for any of it.
Do they draw the conclusion about Chandragupta Maurya from the Greek descriptions?
See, this is the point, right? For example, Greeks never say Chandragupta Maurya. They say Sandrocotus. Now, there was a Chandragupta Gupta, Chandragupta Maurya, many Chandragupta. So, which one?
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Do you know this? That the Alexander, we know only about the Alexander and his context in India only from Greek records. There is no reference whatsoever to Alexander or the Puru or Ambi in Indian records anywhere. It is only from that. And just on that point, I will mention. So, if you take Megasthenes' book, he talks about India tradition, India genealogy existing back for 7,000 plus years. And he talks some guy, and from their 13th generation was a Heracles who compares with the Krishna. And if you take those years and do the number calculation, the triangulation, it comes to 6th millennium BC. And quickly, the last point, Herodotus. He wrote the history of the world. If you go there, I think it's second book, chapter 141, 142. He actually, when Herodotus went to Egypt, there were 341 statues, genealogist statues in the Egypt. Okay. And so when Herodotus asked, like, who is this? And they kept on saying, this guy's name is this guy's name is this. Herodotus has written some. And he says 3 kings took about 100 years, 33 years per king. And when you do the math for 341, lo and behold, it takes you 11,340 years. Now, this is happening 500 BC, 2,500 years ago. At 2,500 years, add that to 11,340, it takes you 14,000 years. Do you know something happening 14,000 years ago?
Ramayana?